British and the natives as America was in the War of 1812 against the indigenous people and the British. America had just participated in the Barbary Wars on the coast of West and North Africa in heated battles with the Moors. And they sing the song, from the shores of Montezuma, no, from the banks of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. What is that song about? That's the song that the Marines sing to show that they had conquered from Mexico to northern Africa, the empire of the Moors, or the Muslims, the ancient people. Indigenous peoples like Tecumseh and his brother the Prophet posed a major problem as they were warring with the whites and creating national fervor amongst the indigenous populations, the so-called Indians and Maroons, of whom Boudinot was connecting to Israel. All right? There were slave revolts en masse, and the capital was in financial and physical flames doing all this communication that I'm talking about. Okay, this is what he says about these people. Boudinot, from A Star in the West. What could possibly bring greater declarative glory to God, or tend more easily to affect and rouse the nations of the earth with a deeper sense of certainty of the prophetic declarations of the Holy Scriptures, and thus call their attention to the truth of divine revelation, than a full discovery that these wandering nations of natives are the long-lost tribes of Israel, but kept under the special protection of Almighty God? They would be convinced that his, check the code language, all-seeing eye had been opened upon them in their wanderings, under all their suffering, and that he had never forsaken them, but had shown his watchful providence over them, and that in the latter day it shall come to pass that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. Okay, so that's his communication about these particular people. Now, the particular people he's talking about are the Nanticoke Moors, or Lenape, or like we noted before, Abenaki, which is the linguistic root of Bannaker Springs, where you find the Bannaker family, right in Maryland. Okay? So this history of these people is very ancient, although they wouldn't like to say so. Now, these people had three branches of government. The three branches of government were the Turtle Clan, the Wolf Clan, and let's see, there was one more. Turtle was the oldest, the Wolf, and the Turkey Clan. All of these worked as branches of government. All right? The three main branches of government. Now, Charles Thompson, a white boy from Ireland, the Secretary of Congress from 1774 to 1786, under the Articles of Association and under the Articles of Confederation, was the secretary for the Lenape. They initiated him and gave him a name. And I want to read that for you, when that happened. And this gentleman spoke some very interesting words about what was going on during that time period. But this is his initiation. And you can get this from the Pennsylvania Magazine of History and Biography. And it's a letter from Charles Thompson to Samuel Rose, Easton, PA, July 28, 1757. Okay? Pennsylvania Magazine of History and Biography, volume 20, pages 421 to 422. Okay? As a young man, Thompson was adopted into the Delaware Nation in 1757. The Delaware called him Wakwulamend, or man who tells the truth. Thompson also witnessed the Delaware and Mohawk condolence ceremony 2 decades before the American independence. Check this out. It was Thompson who faithfully recorded the ceremony, bestowing an Iroquois name on John Hancock. Now, a lot of things that they do is they mix these names up, because these weren't the original names of the people, Iroquois, Delaware, etc. We told you who they were. One example of the legacy his interest in Native America left us in ancient documents. Years after the American Revolution, Benjamin Rush asked Thompson to write a history of the American Revolution, but Thompson declined, saying this. Listen to this. I will not, for I shall contradict all histories of the great events of the Revolution. Now, this is the man who was the Secretary of Congress saying, if I write down what I know, I'm going to contradict everything that y'all got. And show by my account of men, motives, and measures that we are wholly indebted to Providence for its successful issue. Which means that there's got to be an act of God for allowing for us to begin to change these histories this quick and make the changes that we're making. Let the world admire the supposed wisdom and valor of our great men. Perhaps they may adopt the qualities that have been ascribed to them, and thus good be done. I shall not undeceive future generations. So this is him in the book Autobiography of Benjamin Rush, page 155 by George Corner, C-O-R-N-E-R. Okay, so basically what this man is saying, first of all, he was amongst these people. They gave him a name. They initiated him. He took their Bible, translated it from Hebrew and Greek into English, and made it the first translation of the Septuagint in America. Okay? And he also said that he's not going to write down anything because he knew that these people were switching these histories up. Now, this man is also the designer of the seals of government on the money. Now, if you go to your Department of State website, they give the whole history of him designing these seals. The seals came in 1782. But notice that the United States government only uses this little seal with the eagle on it. Congress has passed resolutions up to 4 times to have the die cut for this seal, but they never did it until it was put on the $1 bill, Series A $1 bill in 1935. First time in American history. Now, what does that mean, brother? What are you telling me about, brother? Why is all the symbolism on the money anyway? What does it mean? Why would a country need 2 seals? And what is being communicated to you that we have not picked up? All right. We're going to go back to the slides. BenjaminBannaker. That's how you spell his name correctly. Bannaker. The offspring of the Ka, or spirit. Now, I know we've learned all kind of histories about him, but his almanacs tell who he was. A lot of people say his grandmother was white, and she was from Wales, and she came over and she purchased his grandfather, whose name was Bannaker, who was a Moorish prince, and she freed him from slavery, and they started their little farm. That's a lie. How do we know that it's a lie? First of all, he talked about his grandparents in his own almanacs. So let's take his words, and let's not take anybody else's words. What does he have to say about that? About the racial origin of his history? Well, let's read it, because this is important. Now, Mr. Bannaker had 6 almanacs, and he also had a farmer's almanac. Why is this like this? This is not copied correctly. All right, let me pull one out. He had 6 almanacs. And this gentleman did an enormous amount of work in founding the design for this country. But I want to read a few things about his grandmother that he placed in his almanac, if I could find it in his text. Go on, and I'll come back to it. Martha Walsh is the name of his grandmother, and she was from Wales. Now, anybody who knows history during the time period that she lived, Great Britain was in a civil war because of the Moors, the black Africans, being in Wales, in the place that we call Wales, which is the southeast of Great Britain. Now look at himself. This is a quote from Life of Benjamin Bannaker, Silvio A. Bedini. He says, and this is him commenting to Thomas Jefferson, "Sir, I freely and cheerfully acknowledge that I am of the African race. And it is a sense of the most profound gratitude to the supreme ruler of the universe." So not only does he say black, he say I'm of the deepest dye, which means I'm really black. Okay? And I want to get to the part that talks about his grandmother very quickly. Okay, here it is. This is from his almanac. This is from his Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia almanac and ephemeris. And this is the commentator commenting the introduction. Baltimore, August 20th, 1791. A free black is a who was born in Baltimore County. His and his mother was the daughter of Bannaker and Molly Walsh. Okay? Let's go further. This is a book called The Discovery and Archaeological Excavation of the Benjamin Bannaker Homestead in Baltimore County, Maryland. Now, in Baltimore County, Maryland, or during that time period, only landowners could or would pay taxes. Women, particularly white women, were not landowners and did not pay taxes. But what this book proves is that James Bannaker and his wife, which were, you know, his grandparents, another name that he went by, both were taxpayers. And if I could read the comment very quickly, directly from the history of Bannaker. Okay. A lot of this information I'm going to have to come back to. I'll come back to that. But in particular, I just wanted to cover the fact that Bannaker's lineage was all black. All right? Now let's go quickly into parts of the subject that we want to go to. Now, this man is given credit for the design of Washington, D.C. Now, why is the design of Washington, D.C. so important? What did I do with that slide that quick? Why is the design of this city so important? What did I do with the slide that quick? Oh, here it is right here. Okay. All right, let's put it up. Let's put it up. Let's look right into it. And what we're going to find is something that's very, very powerful. This is from the book that we wrote, Benjamin Bannaker, A True Founding Father. Now, what you're looking at here is the triangle that denotes the three most important areas in Philadelphia and in Washington, D.C., that deal with particular positions of government, places where government is operated, the executive and the legislative in particular. Okay? Now, what we have to also remember is that Washington, D.C. was not the first capital. New York was a capital, but during the time that the Constitution was written, guess where the capital was? Right here. Washington, D.C. was not even designed yet. I'm telling you that he designed it in the 1790s. And this is 1787. So what district are they talking about in this document? Raise a question. That's all. If this was the capital, they're talking about this district first, before D.C. Because D.C. wasn't built yet. They're going to lay out the survey. This survey was already laid out, and this is why I'm showing you that both cities have a construct of a triangle that are exactly the same, where particular places of governing systems operate. Okay? All right. So if you look up top, you see the White House is where the pyramid was, or the art museum. Okay? Next you see the Washington Monument, where the Washington Monument would be, or 30th Street Station, which is where all the commerce comes in and out of the city, and the post office. It's put there for a reason. Commerce is the exchange of energy and communication. All right? And this is laid out by some serious scientists. And the Capitol building, or Congress, is in the exact same place as City Hall is. Okay? Now, City Hall has something very interesting at it. Only two places in America you can go, and you walk in the place where the legislation is passed, you will walk across the zodiac. Now, what is the what's the symbolism of the zodiac being right in the middle of City Hall in Philadelphia, where all of the laws for the country were made? Prior to it being City Hall, it was the waterworks station. Okay? But, of course, it was later developed into City Hall. What is the significance? Go to D.C., you find the same thing. Now, another significant thing about these two places is these are the only two places in the world where you have the zodiac reversed. What do I mean by reversed? If you drew a circle and you drew the zodiac down, it would have a natural progression to it. Okay? You would go from Aries to Taurus to Gemini to Cancer to Leo to Virgo to Libra to Sagittarius to, Scorpio to Sagittarius to Capricorn to Aquarius to Pisces. But because the Earth is spinning in the eastwardly direction, if you were to draw it on a piece of paper, you would have to draw that going counterclockwise. But if you go to D.C. and you go to Philadelphia, you'll see it's in a clockwise direction. Okay? Now, we're going to make each other minor astronomers today. If you go outside tonight and you look up in the sky, say at about 9:30, you're going to see a big constellation called Orion. It has these three little stars that make a belt. Okay? And right above that, you're going to see Taurus, Gemini, etc. These various constellations. Excuse me, you won't see that. You'll see Aquarius and Pisces. All right? So, and we're moving into Aries. But the significant thing about that is that if you want to understand time, you don't need a watch. Because the watch is based on the zodiac. This is why you have 12 on it. And the progressions. All right? So the real watch is the movements of the heavens and the earth. Okay? I want to be very clear. So if you were to stand outside and all day long or all night long, you just see the zodiacs moving across the horizon from the east to the west, setting. And there will be 12 major ones. All right? The only other place in the world where you have a reverse zodiac is in Egypt, at a temple called Tentera. All right? And the reason why the zodiac is reversed is because of what is communicating about time and motion. Now, you might not understand that right now, but we're going to get to it. Why are these things positioned like they are? The reason why they are positioned like they are is because they are showing some information about astronomy and cosmology. What information is that, brother? Market Street would represent the belt of the zodiac. If you were to draw it out. We're going to draw this down later so you can understand it. And this plane or inclination or hypotenuse would represent the movement of the sun around the center of the universe. Which means if I drew a little graph and showed you a circle, a flat circle, the sun doesn't go straight around the circle, it's going like this. Okay? Now, what does this have to do with anything? What does this got to do with anything? Why are you talking about this, brother? Because Benjamin Bannaker, being a well-informed initiate that he was, designed the foundational structures of Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. based on ancient astronomy for a very particular purpose, to leave a communication and a message to us. What message is that? Okay, first of all, if you took your protractor out and measured that angle, the angle would be 33.3 degrees. And the 33rd degree is what all Scottish Rite and Knight Templars strive to get, to Shrine Dome. And what do you learn when you get your Shriner's degree? You learn about the original study, which is black people and mathematics. And they put this in their ritual manuals. So Benjamin Bannaker laid out these places based on particular stars and based on ancient cosmology or ancient astronomy, which shows the exact geometric structure of the universe, which is why that G is in the middle of the protractor and the compass. Because in order to learn how to govern yourself, you have to learn creation. Because it's from creation that you can extract the absolute laws of nature and the absolute laws of creation in order to pattern your social universe after. What do I mean by social universe? I mean society. If you do not pattern your society after that extract, then what you will get is chaos. All right? And this brother knew that science and knew that history. All right, take that down. This is what I was talking about just now. If you give a construct of the universe, and I showed you what it looked like, this is what it would look like. Now, our ancients knew this information. This would be the zodiac. And you see I have Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, and Aquarius. Now notice I have the AD date, and notice I have another date. That is the original calendar date, which means that it is not 2006 AD, or it is not 5766 time period based on what the Jews write down, because they wrote those calendars down to deceive you about time. Okay? And I wish we had time to go into that aspect, because that's important. But this construct is based on a knowledge of the physical universe, which means the universe is not everything. The universe is creation inside of space. All right? Now, you learned about this information in various places, but we don't see it. In the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, you learn about the what? Wheel. And it had 4 parts to it. The cherubim had 4 parts. What? The head of an eagle, the head of an ox, the head of a man, and what was the last one? The head of a lion. Lion is Leo. Taurus is the ox. Scorpio is represented by the eagle, and Aquarius is represented by the man. So you're learning this ancient astronomy is a part of the Israelite or Moorish history, but it's hidden. Okay? So it all comes back. So the real year is not 2006. Okay? All right. Pull that down. This is the temple of Dendera in Egypt. It's kind of bluff, but you can see some of it. All right? And what you'll find is that the signs for the zodiac move in a clockwise direction. And it's based on the 25,000 year, 920 year cycle of the sun around the center of the universe. That's how we really count time in years. And every time the cycle ends, we start back. 25,920. And the beginning of the calendar always started in Virgo. which represents the woman. And Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia were laid out on the constellation Virgo. Okay? All right. So Benjamin Bannaker was dealing with some heavy stuff. But let's go right back for a second, and then we can go into some other information. Because I'm not explaining a lot of this stuff in detail because it takes time. That's a real course. These 3 points also represented something in the human body. The 3 glands that control every function of your body, in your brain. They're called the pineal, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary. It's called the divine triangle. And they control how you able to see me right now, all of your nervous and endocrine functions, the endocrine system being what people are talking about is the chakras and the movement of hormones throughout the body to communicate to every cell. Pituitary gland. All of that is controlled by those 3 glands that are in the 3rd ventricle of your brain. Okay? So that has great significance to why the triangle has such importance and why it was a symbol or symbolic of something related to astronomy and related to the human body. Okay? All right, so let's come off of these slides for a second and get some lights in here so we can learn some other information. All right. I know we're moving kind of fast. Now, Mr. Bannaker has also been displaced or misplaced with his contribution to the government. And the reason why is because he was under another name. Now, I know you're not going to believe me right now. I don't expect you to believe me, but I'll go into further detail this in the next class. The reason why you don't know a lot about Mr. Bannaker until a certain time period is because he's under another name, and that other name is Benjamin Franklin. Now, you say, wait a minute, boy, wait a minute, you're going crazy. Now, go back to the subject of secret societies. And I'm telling you that this is an experiment. And when I go over the history the next week, you're going to get a clear understanding of it. The man we know of, Benjamin Franklin, used 9 aliases during his whole lifetime because he was trying to hide his identity. And you notice, after I go over the lecture, the beginning of the lecture next week, they came into contact with all the same people. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, John Adams, Benjamin Rush, and they never came into contact with each other. Why is that? They both had an intricate connection to the natives. Okay? And again, the design of this country is based on ancient African science. What African science are you talking about, brother? Because you keep saying that. Okay, July 4th, 1776. Why was that date chosen? And after we go through that, we can go into the jurisprudence, okay? What was the significance of July the 4th? Why that date as opposed to any other date? What is July 4th astronomically? Let's read it. Because it's based on the flag. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said a black man from the South designed the flag. The original flag, 13 stars in a circle, 13 red and white stripes. Red, white, and blue, which are the code colors for masonry, the 3 degrees of masonry. White being the first, red being the second, blue being the master mason. All right. When we showed you the slides, we talked about Sirius. Now, Sirius is a star system that's at the center of the universe. We have known this amongst our people for long time periods. The Dogon talk about it. The Egyptians, our ancestors, based the calendar on Sirius because they knew the cosmology, the structure of the universe. Okay, but let's check this out. The significance of Sirius in ancient traditions surrounding government plays an important role in the establishment of the government of the United States of America and in our own establishment of our government that is materializing. The only reason that the people who rule unjustly have been able to rule unjustly is that they were dealing with a superior wisdom or supreme deception. It is the initiation of that wisdom that will free us. Okay, listen to this. From a book called Know Your America, a suggested course in Americanism prepared and distributed by the American Legion, the context and meaning of the establishment and design of the American flag is given. It states, quote, question 1, By what authority was our national flag established? Answer, authorized by Continental Congress. Now, who did they tell you designed the flag? Betsy Ross sold it. Who designed it? Did they say? They say they had a committee of people. Thomas Jefferson was one of them. Benjamin Franklin was one of them. To design the flag, right? All right. Question, and Francis Hopkinson. Question 2.